I'm going to read a little passage from a story called The World's Greatest Fungo Hitter, subtitled Ruminations on Memory, Mortality, and the Cincinnati Reds. And this is from my new book called Not Even Immortality Lasts Forever. I'm not good at titles, you may have. They are not succinct. But I promise you that reading is not quite as verbose as my titles. My new book, by the way, will be out in February. It's called, again, Not Even Immortality Lasts Forever. For a couple of seasons in the late 1940s, the Reds employed a journeyman infielder named Jimmy Bloodworth, the grizzled veteran of a dozen major league seasons, although something of a banjo hitter. I'd seen his picture on the sports page. He was a ruggedly handsome guy, well into his 30s, with prematurely white hair and eyebrows as black as a pair of andirons, like Hopalong Cassidy's. So it comes to pass that in the final hour of a sweltering, steamy summer evening in the dog days of 1949, I'm at the wheel of my mom's still new Chevy sedan, happily chauffeuring myself home from a profoundly gratifying little late-date assignation with my secret extracurricular squeeze, Yvonne, whose dropout boyfriend, Tommy, a coal truck driver, has gone to the mountains on his weekly run. And I'm easing the Chevy through downtown Maysville with all the windows and wind wings open wide, catching the breeze, cooling my still somewhat dampish young self, while simultaneously airing out the back seat after the divertissements that Yvonne and I, in accordance with the imperatives of youth, enjoyed only minutes ago in that cozy accommodation. My heart, needless to say, is high. On the Chevy's radio, Wade Hoyt is describing what will shortly be the conclusion of a long, desultory Reds game with the Chicago Cubs, their only serious rival for last place in the National League, in what has already been, for both teams, a long, desultory season. The Reds are batting. It's the bottom of the ninth. Score tied at something like 8-8. 2 outs, runners on second and third, and here comes creaky old Jimmy Bloodworth to the plate. Of course, Jimmy's no great threat, but the pitcher's due up next, so the Cubbies are electing to pay old Jim the rare compliment of walking him intentionally. Waite's familiar, creamy, smooth radio voice, in concert with my own imagination, brings everything before my eyes with a clarity no television will ever match. The catcher comes out of his crouch and indicates where he expects to receive the pitch, chin high and a foot and a half outside, while Jimmy waits, patient and imperturbable, the bat resting on his shoulder. The pitcher pantomimes a full windup and indolently lobs the ball in the general direction of the targeted area, where it arrives in the catcher's mitt with a dispirited plop. Ball one, the umpire cries. Jimmy's watchful old eyes narrow. He appreciates the free pass, but he just don't care for this pitcher's laxy-daisy attitude somehow. As the next pitch sails past, he notes that its trajectory brings it just a little closer to him, perhaps, than the nonchalant pitcher intended. The bat twitches involuntarily on Jimmy's shoulder, as though it has a will of its own, but that ain't my style, old Jimbo tells himself. Ball two, cries the ump. The third pitch comes floating in as big as a cantaloupe, a scant 6 inches outside the strike zone and slow enough that Jimmy can practically read the Rawlings trademark, so slow it seems almost to levitate before him like a thought balloon in the funny papers, fairly begging him to take a whack at it, which this time he does with impunity. He leans over the plate and swings with his arms extended, and the tip of his bat meets the ball a hair's breadth short of the catcher's mitt and loops a soft, low-hanging liner just over the startled first baseman's outstretched glove and into short right field. The runner on third crosses the plate standing up, and this one belongs to the Reds. It was surely the capstone of Jimmy Bloodworth's diligent, worthy, largely unsung career. His payoff in glory for laboring season after season in the inescapable shadows of more gifted players. I'm sure there have been other instances of batters working a base hit out of an intentional pass, but I've yet to hear of one, and I hope I never do. In any case, it can never happen again, the ritual acting out of the intentional pass having recently been deemed too tedious for television. In my experience, at any rate, Jimmy's stroke of genius stands alone, and I'd sort of like to keep it that way. And because it happened within the very hour of my own initial visit to the Promised Land, I'm afraid I wasn't very good at it, I confessed to Yvonne many years later at a high school reunion. No, she said, but didn't we have fun? From that night forward, I've associated the modest heights Yvonne and I scaled with Jimmy Bloodworth's sudden elevation to the ranks of the obscure immortals. As to the latter, I dare say I'm once again the only living being on the planet who would bother to claim, to have been present via Waite Hoyt for Jimmy's singular exploit, even as it was transpiring. Indeed, that I'm probably the only one who remembers that it happened at all, which is as it should be, I suppose, because not even immortality lasts forever. Thank you all. Thanks, Dan.
I'll bring that down.
Oh, okay, thank you.